Hey, classmates, and Dr. Lindsay. So the case study that I decided to do this for this assignment was the Johnstown of 1889. And the reason why I chose this topic was because, well, I'm not originally from Pennsylvania, but I kind of claim Pennsylvania as home, so I felt like this one was to the chest for me not to choose, as well as to kind of knowing a little bit about that area. Um, so that's kind of why I decided to kind of take that one up. So what it is Johnstown floods occurred in May 31st, 1889. And what it is, it's a town. It's about 30,000 people or so, um, and it's kind of almost at like a little bit of a confluence. Two rivers kind of come together. There's a dam. The dam is on private property, and the people that own the lodge have the dam to kind of make their own lake. That way, they can do hunting, gaming, and fishing on their own property. So being the mayor, some of the things to look into obviously would be some of the planning and zoning ordinances. That way you don't build up homes and property along the banks of the river. Because the town is actually built in the floodplain, and it's been known to flood about once a year or so. Just a minor flooding kind of comes down the streets. Also, the fact is it probably should have had an evacuation plan that they didn't have. Um, and also to make sure that the dam actually gets proper maintenance, which apparently it had been lacking for some time. And then it had some really heavy rains come along, and that's when it was kind of noticed that the dam was going to fail. So they kind of did a last ditch minute kind of job trying to fix it up, and didn't really work out that well. So also the plan is also need to have some kind of communication plan, to warn the citizens if any, for when the dam does fail and whatnot. And obviously being 1889, kind of limit your options. Pretty much you're down to telegraph, people on foot or people on horses. Maybe had like some kind of maybe like a flag system, or maybe some kind of like a horn system where people will kind of blow a horn or a horn sound, something like that. As well as one of the issues was from the mayor was trying to get resources to fix the dam. The dam was on private property, so it's kind of a little bit of an uphill battle for them. So stage two of the case study is that the dam actually collapses after the heavy rains, and what it actually releases is about 20 tons of water with about 60-foot waves coming towards the city or coming towards the town at about 40 miles per hour. I did find one other source to kind of look at, and this was the Johnstown Area Historical Association. One of their people had referenced that when they talked to scientists and they'd play this out was kind of coming down at them as if you were coming over as the water falls over Niagara Falls. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a mindset of how much water was coming towards this town. So the other option is that, how long do you have to evacuate the town? In the case study, it talks about that less than 10 minutes. So that really kind of only leaves you one option, as to evacuate the town. There's not even any time to decide about what a backup plan would be, as well as, there's no technology. So in order to evacuate, when you got to go door to door or have people on horses to help evacuate, and that obviously takes time, as well as to get first responders together to help. Also the thing is once it collapses, how do you reach out to the other neighbors, to neighboring communities, for food, medical supplies, for building supplies, that kind of stuff, as well as to get first responder help, to help kind of get these people. So stage three is where it kind of talks about the 10 minutes that they had from the time the dam broke to the time that the water actually was going through the town. So it said about within the 10 minutes, thousands of people were just swept away or they were trapped up in their attic. So some of the things they want to probably consider is the search and rescue operations to save the people trapped in the water, as well as come up with an idea on how to get the people out there trapped up in the attic. Some kind of strategy there, because obviously you're not going to have like today's technology where we can get first responders there ahead of time, or even to doing some disasters where you can pre-stage responders or equipment. So hopefully, once again, how do you call for help? Telegraph or horse carriers have to go over to the neighboring communities to get that help. Stage four talks about, now that you've kind of had the disaster, how do you feed the hungry? How do you take care of the ones that are sick and ill? One question I have is, where do you set up the temporary morgue to house the bodies? So obviously you got to import all that from outside the city. So you got to figure out where to get it from, where to store it. as well as where to kind of house the people that are coming in to help you, as well as your citizens that are still there. So some temporary shelters, medical supplies, food, water, that kind of stuff. Also talks about today, try to get financial aid to help those people, help the people rebuild, open up um, that kind of stuff. So some of the lessons that I learned, I took away from it, was it's really important when you build a city or when you plan to build your stuff, is knowing like where your floodplains are. Make sure that you keep things away from the floodplains, along with planning and zoning. Maybe not having 40-foot hotel right next to a raging river is probably not a good idea. But maybe like a one-story warehouse you can get away with. One of the things it talks about is knowing your infrastructure. I mean, they knew the dam was upstream. They knew it was owned by the hunting and the private hunting lodge. Maybe they should have worked with them to kind of take care of the mains a little bit more. I know hunting lodge was the main priority, or they're mainly responsible for it. But if they're not maintaining it, maybe we need to step in and take it as private property, or do whatever we can to get the maintenance up to snuff on it. But in the end, there's over 2,200 people. So Zach said 22 and 9 individuals were killed during the flood. What I found kind of amazing was when I looked at the Johnstown Historical Association group, was that July 30th or July 1st, they had mentioned several stores had actually reopened. So that's only about a little bit over a month it actually took to get some of the stores reopened, a little bit cleaned up. And then they also made a comment that if you had visited the town 5 years later, you never would have known that there was ever a flood there. That's kind of how quickly they kind of rebuilt. One of the things I kind of found interesting is usually after a disaster or after something collapses or fails, usually there's some kind of new rule, new law, new legislation, new way of doing something. New ordinance comes out. And actually after this one, after the dam collapsed, there actually was no change at the community level or the state level or anything like that. It just kind of almost was like, oh, it happened. They kind of chalked it up to an act of God, as opposed to a lack of maintenance. It actually took about 47 years for some constructive efforts to happen, that they were able to really control the waters that kind of come through Johnstown. So you're talking almost 50 years after the major flood that killed 2,000 people, that they finally decided that, hey, we need to, we need to mitigate the issue so that way it doesn't happen again. So that's kind of why I did this one, and I hope you guys are enjoying the. District 6, South of Stoneleaf Circle,